But here's what we're going to do while we're working on the technical issues. We're just going to jumble our schedule a little bit. And so we are going to have our keynote speaker, Elise Mitchell, come and share her message with us now, okay? Is that good? You ready? All right, good. Let me introduce Elise to you. First of all, Elise and I have been friends for over 15 years. For the last 10 years or so, we have met 2 or 3 times a year to just talk about leadership and talk about faith and work and what that looks like in her life. About 2 years ago, she joined our Workmatters board of directors to help us really shape our vision for the future. But Elise is a true entrepreneur. It has been amazing to watch her grow her company, Mitchell Communications Group, initially literally out of her home over 20 years ago, and then to receive so much fruit for her company as well as her personally for the work that they've done. Let me just share a few of the awards that they've received. Top 10 fastest growing public relations firm globally. 2 times Inc. 500, 5,000 fastest growing company. Entrepreneur of the Year, Agency Professional of the Year, just to name a few. Then in 2012, 20 years into building this company, Elise started a new season in her life. She actually sold her company to a global communications company called Dentsu Aegis Network. So she now serves as CEO of her original company, Mitchell, as well as CEO of Dentsu Aegis Public Relations Network. Now, here's what I think matters to you guys today. Elise learned about leadership the hard way. For 20 years, she wrestled with building a company and learned leadership lessons that go along with that. So the last couple of years, she has taken those leadership lessons, put them into a brand new book. It's been out about 3 months now. It's called Leading Through the Turn. It's sold in 9 countries. It has ranked as a #1 seller, new release seller on Amazon in 2 different business categories. So, Elise, as you're about to find out, is one of the most dynamic, energetic people that I've ever known, and you're going to be blessed by her message today, finding purpose in the journey. Let's welcome a very flexible Elise Mitchell. Thank you.
The journey matters as much as the destination. Well-intentioned people like to remind those of us who are driven souls about this advice, but I never bought it. I'm a destination person by nature. In business and family life, I like to know where I'm going and how I'm going to get there. The rest is just scenery, right? Sound familiar? Is this you or someone you know? I have reached a lot of destinations that I have set my sights on, and perhaps the biggest and most rewarding one was what David mentioned a few minutes ago about having the privilege of building a company from scratch and selling it to a global organization. And we've reaped many rewards from that, that's for sure. So don't get me wrong. Entrepreneurship has been the ride of my life, but it almost cost me far more. There was a time when all I thought about was winning at work, until an interesting thing happened to me a few years ago. I stopped sleeping. Now, I didn't have any trouble going to bed at night, as my husband will tell you, about midnight every night. He'd be talking to me and he'd look over and boom, I was out. Mid-sentence, I was asleep. So I didn't have any trouble going to sleep. But about 2:30 or 3 every morning, I was wide awake, never to go back to sleep. This went on for about 3 months. And, I was dealing with all the concerns at work for sure, but there was one question that was burning in the back of my brain, and it would never go away. And it was, is this all there is? Now, that's a frightening thing to face if you are a destination person, because I knew I had drive and determination. But I had always honestly defined myself by my achievements. And if the destination was not worth reaching, what was I striving for? And I did find one answer that turned me around, and it's this. It isn't that the destination is not worth pursuing, but in my pursuit of the destination, I had missed the journey along the way. But maybe, just maybe, if I could make the journey matter more, I could reclaim my life and find deeper purpose and meaning in my work. So, how do we make the journey matter? And does that actually help us find greater purpose in our work? Well, absolutely, I think it does. And there are so many things that you could do. And I want to take just a few minutes this morning to look at the two probably biggest, most important areas of your life, your work life and your personal life, and share a couple of tips that have worked for me and helped me find a way to make the journey matter. You know, I remember as a young professional, I aspired to be a leader someday. But when I looked around and I saw all the different types of leaders that were in the news or that were being glamorized by the media for sure, I was confused. Because I thought that to be successful, you had to be tough and not show any emotion or care about other people. And you had to be willing to step on anybody to get where you wanted to go. And for sure, you had to know all the answers, or at least pretend like you did. And the problem was, I wasn't like this at all. So I began to wonder, how can I be successful as a leader just being myself? And I wonder if you have thought about that too. Have you ever wondered that being you wasn't enough? Because I think too many times we try to fulfill other people's expectations for us, or we try to become the leader that they want us to be. But only when we are truly ourselves do we have the opportunity to lead at our best. And I have certainly grown a lot as a leader since that time. But you know what? I have not fundamentally changed who I am. I mean, this is who I am. This is who God made me to be, just like you. You are who you are because God made you to be that person. And, really being able to embrace who you are as a leader, it makes the journey far more enjoyable, but it also helps you have the opportunity to be all the leader you can be. And I believe, too, that to be truly effective as a leader, there's got to be something different and special about you. And why would I say to be different? Because don't we want to be like everybody else, right? Just like in 5th grade, we wanted to be like everybody else. But I don't think that's true at all. I think that actually it is much more compelling to be unique and special and different. Because so many leaders today, you look around and they kind of seem the same. They're sort of cookie cutter. They've maybe shelved their personal values to adopt whatever the value of the day is, or whatever their organization espouses. And that's okay to some degree. But I think you risk losing a lot of your individuality and your uniqueness when you do that as a leader. So there must be something compelling about you that makes people pick you. Whether that's an employer or somebody who's making a decision about a promotion that you're trying to get and you're competing with others, or a customer or a client who's trying to make a choice, you want people to pick you. So there must be something different and special that makes you attractive, because being different is attractive. It makes you stand out from the crowd. But the trick is, you must be you. You can't be something you're not. Because if you try to do that, I think other people sniff that out pretty quickly, and there's nothing less desirable than a fake. Which begs the question, what makes you you? And the answer is you have to know yourself and dare to be yourself. And be sure that other people around you know who you are and what you stand for too. And in my thinking, this really just kind of starts from within. You have to look within to know yourself well. What are my gifts and talents? What do I believe in? What are my passions? What about my faith? How am I going to let those things shape and guide the type of leader that I want to become? And then ultimately bringing all of those things together to find your sweet spot. That place where you will absolutely flourish as a leader. And that's the ultimate goal, right? Maybe, but I want to challenge you. Because getting to a sweet spot is great, and we all want to do that, but that's not the end. I really think it's far more important what you do with that opportunity once you are there. It is a privilege to be a leader. And just to clarify, I consider all of us leaders. I don't care what your job title is or where you are. Leadership is not defined by title. It's by your character, your actions, your words, how people choose to follow you because of the person you are. So you could be a leader in your home, in your community, certainly in your workplace, but you can be a leader anywhere. And in that place of leadership, you have the chance to impact others for good. I've often wondered why God put me in different places at different times in my leadership journey, especially when the challenges I was facing were rather daunting. And I thought, I'm not sure I'm up to the task. Because let's face it, sometimes leadership can be overwhelming. But I've always been really inspired by a lot of the characters in the Bible. Esther, I suppose, is one of my favorite characters. Her courage to risk her own life to stand before the king saved the Israelites from destruction. And Moses, who was pretty convinced he wasn't leadership material and actually tried to talk God out of it. But God had other plans, and he knew he had called the right man for the job to lead the Israelites out of bondage, to part the Red Sea, and to take them into the promised land. I mean, even the disciples that Jesus called were so unexpected. I don't think I'd call any of them a classic leader type. They were fishermen and tax collectors, but this is who Jesus called to his executive team. And so I've now come to understand that God has indeed led me to be right where he wanted me to be. And for myself, I have learned that he called me into the heart of a mission field, a rather dark place at times, where he called me to be a light. And maybe he's called you to the same place, because that mission field is the business world. And he's put me right where he wants me to be, you too. So the question is, are you willing to be a light in that rather dark world? The lesson for us is that God can use us, can use you, no matter where you are, what you do, in whatever work environment you find yourself. God can use you, but only if you let him. So let's don't overthink this now, and I don't want you to shy away from this chance to impact others for good, because it's really not that hard. I have this one very straightforward core belief that has served me well, and it is this: when you have opportunity to do good for others, just do it. Don't question it. Don't wonder what's going to happen if I do this, or should I. Just say, okay, I'm gonna do this thing for somebody because I have that opportunity right in front of me. And I want to give you a couple of simple and quick examples of how I do that. So one of the toughest leadership lessons I learned it a few years ago, still trying to live it out, is to be a leader who releases instead of a leader who holds tightly. And by this I mean that I try to empower, equip, and enable all of those around me to give all the good stuff away to them, to not keep it for myself. And by good stuff I mean power and authority, relationships, recognition, credit, opportunity, whatever it is that I can do to help make their career soar. That's my job right now. And I want to be that door opener for them, that catalyst for their career. Another example is we have a program at Mitchell called Ignite, and it is one of my favorite days of the year. It's the day that we go out in the community and we just do random acts of kindness. And it's something you can do too at your workplace. It's so easy. We divide everybody up into teams and we give them just a stack of some money and we say, you got 4 hours. Go out into the community and find somebody who needs your help right then and help them. And come back with nothing, you gotta give it all away, except the story of what you were able to do to touch someone's life that day. And more importantly, how did it change you as a giver? And then my other principle is to love the whole person. And this one, I think of it as, typically in the workplace, we can treat each other fairly transactionally. You have your job, I have mine, and that's it. That's it. But what I mean by loving the whole person is that you show genuine interest in other people. Learn their names, call them by name. Stop, talk to them in the hallway. Ask about their family or their dog or whatever it is that's important to them. Show true interest in them. Sometimes I'll even tell people, hey, I'm praying for you today because I know they're struggling. And that kindness that you show, just one simple thing, could be the one positive thing that happens to that person that day. So don't tell me that doesn't matter. Don't tell me that isn't a way to impact other people for good. So daring to be yourself, finding your sweet spot, and then more importantly, impacting others for good. These are ways that we can make our journey matter more in our work lives. But I will tell you in all honesty, the hardest lesson I ever learned was how to make the journey matter in my personal life, which is easy to say and hard to do if you are a destination leader. But we all know, and studies tell us, we can't work all the time. You've got to find that off switch, right? You've got to have things that you enjoy doing outside of work and that would help you to live a whole life. But if you'd asked me a few years ago what my hobbies were, I would have told you, well, I don't have time for hobbies, in this sort of self-righteous manner. I don't have time for hobbies because I was spending all of my time building my company. But the truth of it was, I didn't make time for hobbies. I didn't make time for anything except focusing on my business. But I knew that needed to change. And by that, I don't mean that you can't work hard. Of course you can. And there are many times you have to lean into your career. It needs you at that moment. But you can't do it for 10 years straight like I did and never invest in any other part of your life. I knew that my husband, who I have to say, 30 years ago next month, been married to the same terrific guy. I know. Thank you. He's a pretty patient guy. I give him tons of credit for hanging with me. But I knew I wanted him to be married to that attractive and engaging person he thought was going to be his life partner, and not somebody who only defined herself by her work. And then I had this sort of crazy goal, still have this crazy goal. I don't think it's come true yet, but I want my kids to think that I'm a fun and cool and interesting mom. Somebody who pursues her personal passions and joys, not just has her head buried in her computer all of the time. So you know what I did? I changed. I invested in myself. I found hobbies. I found things that I really, really like to do. And as you can see from the pictures and some of the descriptions, that motorcycling is one of my great loves today. I've learned so much from motorcycling, a lot about the journey of life, but more about just simply the joy of the ride. And I also learned how to, actually this was a kind of a return to a love of my youth. I'm an avid runner. I used to run all the time when I was young, and then I just didn't think I had time anymore to run. I was running to things, but it wasn't like that. So I became a runner again. I love photography, travel, cooking. I love nothing more than entertaining in my home. All of these things are meant to be experienced, not accomplished. So my question for you is, what do you love? What gives you joy just in the doing of it? And how long has it been since you've done that? Do you keep telling yourself, I don't have time or money to make room for that in my life? I'm just going to keep that on the sidelines. But how much richer and fuller would your life be with those things in it? Because I want to tell you a truth. You must invest in yourself, because if you don't, there won't be anything left for anybody else. And no one wants to be around someone who works all the time or thinks about work all the time. You have to really show up in life for the people who are most important around you. You know, we all want that brownie point for going to our daughter's dance recital or our son's ball game. But if you're that parent who's back there behind the bleachers on the cell phone the whole time, kind of missing the whole thing, you don't get the full point. You get maybe a quarter of a point at best. Because wouldn't you rather be that parent that is sitting on the front row? Your kid can see your face. They can hear you calling for them. Strikeout or home run does not matter. You're there. You're there. And I want to tell you, your kids know. They remember. Because I asked my kids. About a year or so ago, I asked my kids, hey, what do you remember most from your childhood, happiest moments of your youth? And both of them said the same thing. Mom, it was when you were with me, when I was. My daughter did cheer. My son played everything that involved a ball. And they both did it for about 8 to 10 years. You know, that's what this generation does. Now they're engaged in something, and I love it. Teaches them how to be a part of a team, how to win and lose in life. They said, Mom, you were there with us. And Dad was too. And I watched my son sit by the bedside of my late father-in-law as he was passing. And he said, Grandpa, you were there for me at all my games. And I thought, they know, they notice. Don't you miss it? Don't you miss it? People are the greatest gift we have in life. Relationships matter the most, and we have to invest in them. You know, I learned that I had to make time, lots of sloppy quantity time, for my husband, my kids, my friends, the people at work who mean more to me than just the transactional nature of work. They are the ones who have stayed with me through thick and thin, and I want to be there for them in the darkest moments of their life. And I want them to be there with me too. But you must be intentional about keeping fellow journeyers. You can't ride so far ahead that nobody can keep up with you. And sometimes you scrap the map in life and you go on a detour that is better for them than it is for you. And sometimes on that motorcycle journey, you put the kickstand down on the side of the road, you get off your bike, and you just look around and admire how beautiful it is right here in this moment. Don't miss it. Don't miss the richness of your life. Because traveling the road of life is so much more enjoyable when we have fellow journeyers that go with us. But you have to be intentional about finding and keeping them with you. So as you can tell, motorcycling has been a very important part of my life, far more than just a hobby. Because when I learned to ride, it was about 10 years ago, and it was right when I couldn't sleep. And it changed me. It changed me. It helped me see there was more to life, because I kept thinking, I never have fun like this. Isn't this what life is supposed to be about? Is enjoying the ride of life. Because I will tell you, there was a powerful truth that came to me. And it was, we all need a clear destination and the drive to get there. But that's not enough. The journey matters. It really does. And I've learned to be today what I call a destination leader with a journey mindset. Someone who is still very focused on reaching her goals, but who now also understands that life is meant to be savored and experienced. And becoming a destination leader with the journey mindset has really changed me. As you can tell, it's really transformed who I am. I think today, you ask anybody who knows me, you could ask David, he's known me a long time, that I'm a very different CEO, wife, mom, friend than I ever was before. And adopting a journey mindset was the key. So figuring out the destination and journey challenge was such a game changer that I decided to write a book about it. And the book is called Leading Through the Turn, and my publisher is McGraw-Hill, and it just came out just a few months ago in January of this year. And I want to invite you, I'm going to be outside here for the rest of the afternoon at the table. Please stop by. I would love to meet you and hear your stories and put a face with a name. Sign your book if you'd like to have one. And then I have something special that I told David, worked really hard on for this day, to thank you for being here at Leadercast. If you are interested in taking a deeper dive into purpose for your life, I have prepared a free download that you can get on my website, and it's called A Leader's Guide to Finding Purpose in the Journey. And it's got a couple of things that I think you might find pretty valuable. First thing is it has something called a journey line exercise. This is something that I've done with lots of groups. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with a team at a retreat of some kind. It's a wonderful opportunity to reflect on your career and your life so far. There's also a section of the guide that walks you through the 5 elements of purpose and lets you really fill in the blanks about yourself and take that look inward to see who you are and where's your there. Where's your destination, where you're headed in life? And then lastly, it has an opportunity for you to create a purpose statement for yourself. So I invite you to go to elisemitchell.com/purpose, download that free guide, and hopefully it'll help you just take a closer look at finding purpose in your life. So I want to close with a final thought. No matter what your goals are, no matter what destination that you are striving for, remember this: it's okay to have ambition, but that can't be all you're about. You have to live a full life. And when you do, you will have learned to make the journey matter as much as the destination. And trust me, it does. Thank you very much.
Hang out with me for just a second. Thank you, Elise.